All right, so thank you for joining us. We're going to get started. We do have a few more people who will join us, but I think they'll probably trickle in as we get going. So we have a packed agenda and a lot of good information. We're really excited about the speakers that we have here today. We've brought together 12 really great resources within Palm Beach County and throughout the Treasure Coast. So we will discuss some resources that we have are located in Palm Beach County, but we're putting together a directory that covers our entire service area. So for those of you that are attending, if you see a support on here today that's not in your area, we will send that and we'll send a resource directory. So hopefully you can find an overlapping service in your area. And if not, you can reach out to your CARD clinician or to CARD and we can help to get you connected. Just a note, this presentation is being recorded so that others who couldn't make it today can view it, and it'll be on our YouTube page. So I'm going to get right to it. Our agenda today will include an overview of CARD services, as well as an introduction to safety concerns specifically for individuals with autism. And then I'll go over information about the safety resources that we have here at FAU CARD. And we'll also hear from three of our sponsors, Dr. Tamar Levine from Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, Molly Ann McGinnis from Butterfly Effects, and Zippy Rosen and Aaliyah Longhurst from Rails Jewish Family Services. And then we'll get into our lineup of panelists who will share information about their agency, as well as the supports that they provide in our community. A little bit about FAU CARD. We are grant funded through the Florida Department of Education. We provide free consultation, support, and training to individuals with autism, their families, friends, professionals, employers, community members, anyone who supports them. And we have a 5-county service region that includes Indian River County, St. Lucie, Martin, Okeechobee, and Palm Beach counties. And we have 3 offices, one on the FAU Boca campus, and then one on the FAU Jupiter campus, and one in the Indian River State College campus. So as we get going, if you have questions that come up throughout the presentation, please do put them in the chat. We have a question and answer session at the end of the presentations, but because we have so many wonderful panelists, it's probably going to run right up until 1:30. So if you have to log off at that point, we'll make sure that your question gets responded to. Please just address it to the panelists or the resource that you're asking if that's applicable. And I'm going to hand it over to FAU CARD's Executive Director, Dr. Jack Scott, to speak a little bit about the importance of today and this event that we hold each year.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it. And thank you all for joining. Thank you to our panelists, and certainly thank you to the parents and other interested people who are joining. This is a very special topic to me, and I'm sure to all of you, and one that is widely under-recognized as an important issue. It's an uncomfortable issue, of course. You know, we're looking at the chances for injury and even sadly for death to children, adults, and these do account for a shortened lifespan that we see, you know, when we look at data on autism longevity, much of it occurring in the childhood years. In our South Florida context, a region with so many wonderful water features with ponds, lakes, the ocean, pools and more pools, the risk multiply. You all, I'm sure, are aware of the basic risks in terms of elopement. And with elopement comes unsupervised access to water. And not just pools, but retention ponds and all kinds of other ways. Suffocation is another big source of risk. Bad people, police interactions that can go wrong for a variety of reasons, even exposure. We had a gentleman we helped several years ago who died from exposure. that may have been suicide related, but exposure would have been the actual cause of death. What do we do? You know, if someone asks me, the short version is parents and those who directly support parents need to help make sure there's an awareness. From a 2011 study, we know that about half the parents prior to, let's hope it's not now, when their child had run away and eloped, they didn't even know that that was a prospect. They weren't even aware that the chances of their child having a greater risk for elopement existed. And we need to make sure all parents are aware of this. And with CARD, any of the parents who sign up with CARD for their child, they get a heavy dose of autism safety. And we're working really hard to get them boxes, safety boxes that have all kinds of safety material and some devices even, and important decals and all kinds of things. Supervision, again, becomes critical. Parents with autism have a tremendous job and heavy responsibility to provide very, very tight supervision for their child, and make sure that that same level of supervision is provided across the day, especially when the child is young. And then later, as the child gains some independence, to help make sure they are in a safe space and know how to get support if they need it. And then action is needed on the part of the parents. And we'll be hearing about many of these things. In some cases, it's additional alarms or ways to secure the home, pull fences with self-latching, self-locking gates, with other things that may be needed. All of these become important. But if parents are at first level not aware, then none of those other things happen. So we see it sadly with the tragic death of a 5-year-old boy in West Palm Beach on Saturday this last week. We've been in contact with the school where the little boy attended, and we know it has devastating impacts even for the school and the teachers and the children there, but certainly for the family. They will never forget this, and it will live with them forever. These are very sad, but they are largely preventable, and that's an important reason why we're here together. So, Jackie, thank you for the opportunity to talk to everyone, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Okay?
All right, thank you, Jack. So, as Jack mentioned, as parents and caregivers, being aware of the problem, recognizing those challenging, those possibly risky behaviors is extremely important. And attempting to recognize the function or the reason behind that behavior. And we're going to hear more about that a little bit later on. But also recognizing and having a plan for emergencies. That could include, having a written out plan with a physical description of your loved one, their preferences, their dislikes, as well as a description of their behavior, communication patterns. We don't want to think about these emergency crisis situations occurring, but when they do happen, if they do happen, we generally aren't thinking our most clearly at that point, and recalling information, even basic information, can be very difficult. So we want to have a plan and responsibilities for who can help, important phone numbers, if there's siblings in the house, making sure they know how they can help if emergencies do occur as well. And then supervision is the number one way to keep your loved one out of harm's way, but it's also important to assess the environment, assess your home, making modifications as needed. So I'll show you more in our safety boxes that we have, but that does include maybe additional alarms on doors and windows. Maybe it means adding some locks, using visuals to support communication or understanding as well. And sadly, as Jack alluded to, children with autism are 160 times more likely than their peers without autism to experience a non-fatal or fatal drowning. So if your child does show signs of elopement, it's extremely important that you act immediately to get support. So we encourage families to work with behavioral services to reduce those behaviors, to also do research on electronic tracking devices that can reduce those search times and reduce the risks. And it's also very important that if your child does display elopement wandering behaviors, that the school is aware of this as well, so that they can put a safety plan in place. And as we discussed, different risks will occur over the lifetime. So as younger children, we have to be really aware of environmental safety and things within the environment that can pose a risk. And as they grow older, we see more challenges with interpersonal safety, things like bullying and online internet safety, accessing the community, interacting with individuals. They might be vulnerable, or they may not understand what a safe relationship looks like. So ensuring that we're focusing and changing that focus as well, or expanding our focus throughout the lifetime of our loved ones. And CARD is prepared to support you throughout your journey. So some of our safety initiatives include safety boxes that you can see on the screen to our families in need. These boxes contain over 20 supports that reduce the risks within the home. And this includes visual supports, door alarms, information about swim lessons, decals for law enforcement and first responders, and a lot more. So these are really good resources for anyone, especially with a young child with autism. We've also collaborated with Project Lifesaver and many of our local sheriff's offices to provide qualifying families with a radio frequency tracking device free of charge. So you'll learn a little bit more about that program a little later on. And then we have 2 free parent programs that include our Little Owls early intervention program, which provides information, resources, and guidance to parents of children 18 months to 5 years of age. And then we have our Building Better Behavior program that supports parents of children who may display challenging or disruptive behaviors. And then finally, we also hold regular training events for law enforcement and first responders across our catchment area. We recently received a large grant through the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council to create and pilot a training curriculum for first responders. So we're very excited about that. We also provide opportunities for fun interactions in a safe space between law enforcement and first responders and individuals with autism. Again, you'll hear a little bit more about our Day for Autism and some other events. We also do dinner and a movie with first responders for our adults to learn how to safely interact with law enforcement, and for first responders to have a chance to really get to know and interact with individuals with autism as well. So, as I said, we are here and we hope to help you, especially when it comes to safety. So to learn more about all of our services, our programs, and our events, you can visit our website. It's autism.fau.edu to get more information. All right, and next we want to thank our community partners at Joe DiMaggio Children's Health Specialty Center, Butterfly Effects, and Rails Jewish Family Services for their continued support for programs like this. And I'm going to now introduce our first presenter, Dr. Tamar Levine with Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital.
All right, well, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you so much for having me and inviting me to be a part of this amazing opportunity to speak with families and people in the community about drowning prevention and water safety, and the impact that it's had in the autistic population. You can go to the next slide. I have no financial disclosures. Okay, so we know that drowning does remain a major source of morbidity and mortality here in the United States, but really worldwide. And the numbers that you can see here, this data is a little bit dated, but indicates just the magnitude of the problem. And you have to remember that this probably actually underestimates the true numbers, because we know that a lot of near drownings or non-fatal drownings may or may not actually seek medical attention. And so we probably are underreporting the true number of drowning incidences. And one thing that is notable when you look at this map and you look at other maps that indicate drowning rates is that Florida leads the United States in this statistic. And that's something that we are trying to make changes, and we're trying to really work hard to lessen the number here in Florida. You can go to the next slide. So as a pediatric surgeon and somebody who sees patients after traumas and somebody who is involved in putting in G tubes for kids who do survive drownings and unfortunately sustain, devastating neurologic injuries, one particular group that I'm interested in obviously is a pediatric population. And we know that children ages 1 to 4 are at the highest risk of drownings. And again, Florida leads the entire country in this statistic and in this number. And this is both for fatal drownings as well as for non-fatal drownings, which oftentimes do lead to hospital evaluations, potentially to hospitalizations as well, and the impact that has had, on families, on patients, and on the healthcare system. Okay, go to the next slide. So it can take as little as 10 seconds for a child to drown. I mean, that means that in the time that I just said that statement, a child can drown. So, we have to just remember how quickly this can happen. And people often think that drowning is, a big event where you see somebody flailing and what have you, and see them in distress. And while that might be the case, many drownings actually are silent. They happen quickly, they happen silently, and oftentimes the victim, unfortunately, is found either when it's too late or when there might be devastating consequences as well. And as I said, the highest incidence does occur in 1 to 4-year-old children. This is the #1 leading cause of death in this patient population. Next slide. So looking just at some other demographics which increase the risk of drowning, we know that males are at a higher risk of both fatal and non-fatal drownings compared to the female cohort. This might be because of riskier behaviors. It's really a little bit unclear as to why this is, but the statistic does hold kind of throughout the ages, but in particular in that 1 to 4 age group. Additionally, patients from lower socioeconomic status classes and also patients for whom parents don't know how to drown are also at a higher risk of drowning themselves. Next slide. Here in South Florida in particular, we actually lead the whole state in the number of drownings, drowning deaths and non-fatal hospitalization. So it's a really particular problem in our communities in our area. And there is a temporal relationship. We know that in the summer months when more people have more access to pools, more people are off from school or what have you, more kids, that they have increased risk of drowning basically from the months of April through September. So really important to note that we need interventions and need to pay particular attention to this time of the year. Next slide. About 3/4 of drownings occur in a residential area, meaning that, in somebody's home, in somebody's backyard, and about 90% of those drownings actually occur when there is a caregiver present, which is an astoundingly high number. Unfortunately, these occur when the child has gained either unsupervised access to the pool or they're not being adequately supervised. We know that in the younger age group, the highest incidence of drowning does occur in swimming pools, but it is important to note that we do have kids who've drowned in kiddie pools, in bathtubs, in toilets, in shallow bodies of water as well. And we know that babies can drown in as little as 1 to 2 inches of water. This is in contrast to older patients who are more susceptible to drowning in more of the open water. But pools do remain a concern. Pools and spa remain a concern in this population as well. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the toddler years are the highest incidence of drowning risk compared to other age groups, and that the biggest drowning threat is unsupervised access to water. So as Dr. Scott already alluded to, we're going to talk a little bit about the autistic population in particular and the concern with elopement, allowing children to get access unsupervised to the water. We know that children with autism oftentimes are very apt to the water. They know that, the water it's shiny, it ripples, it's fun, it has a texture to it, it feels, different. So, many of our autistic patients are very susceptible to drowning because they tend to gravitate to bodies of water because of this affinity for the water. And we know that water safety and drowning prevention really is paramount. I always tell people that swimming should be the first sport that every child learns, not soccer, not dance, not any other sport. Really, swimming is the sport that is going to potentially save their life. Next slide. So drownings are the #1 cause of US deaths reported in children with autism who are aged 14 years and younger. And you can see here in this graph that 71%, so almost 3/4 of all deaths in this age population are due to drowning. That is an extraordinarily high and startling statistic. We can go to the next slide. And as was already mentioned, kids with autism are at 160 times more likely or higher incidence of drowning compared to the non-autistic general pediatric population. And when I first, read that number, I had to look at it a couple of times. I had to check other resources. I mean, it's really a startling number when you just see how prevalent this is and what a concern it is. And as we mentioned before, the drowning deaths might be elevated in the autistic population because of that risk of elopement, because the patients are able to gain access to water, during elopement. And it's been reported that about a third of parents who have children that have eloped in the past reported a close call with a drowning episode. And, again, these are really high numbers. And as was already mentioned, there are certain measures that can be taken in order to try to reduce these numbers, which is obviously our ultimate goal. And swimming lessons are really going to be the key to at least do what we can to try to help protect this population, as well as the non-autistic population as well. So we're going to go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, how can you tell if somebody's drowning? And people often think about, oh, in the movies, they're flapping, they're yelling, they're screaming, it's loud, it's a whole commotion, what have you. But we know that the reality is that many drownings actually happen in a silent manner and can actually happen with people around and present and just not even aware that the person is in distress. So you really want to make sure that you keep an eye on all people that are in the water at all times. Next slide. Some of the ways that we can help to try to prevent drowning or reduce the incidence of drowning is, as mentioned before, by installing proper barriers and alarms, installing proper covers to pools and to spas, really trying to limit the access to the water, especially if it's going to be in an unsupervised manner. The pools can never be too secure. You can never have too many alarms, bells, whistles, what have you, in order to alert you if somebody does gain access to the pool. Proper gates and covers can help to reduce the risk of drowning by as much as 50%. So really important to make sure that these are installed and installed properly. And by proper installation, we mean that pool fences should be at least 4 feet high, should completely encompass the entirety of the pool. You don't want to have any slats that allow for entry either between the slats, beneath the slats, anything that's broken or what have you, where a child or an animal or anybody in an unsupervised manner can access the pool. Additionally, you want to make sure that pool gates are secure, that they are properly functioning, that they have a self-close and self-latch mechanism, and ideally are at a height where children, especially young children, can't reach them, can't access them, can't open them. So it's recommended for them to be at least 54 inches. It always surprises me every time I go to somebody's home and they have a pool that doesn't have a proper gate, doesn't have a proper fence. And, just how many times I've been in Florida now for 6 years and how many times I've encountered this here in Florida. And, with the statistics, what they are, it's just mind boggling that this is still an ongoing problem. Next slide. You want to make sure that the pool or the spa is completely separate from the house so that you can have a completely encompassing gate around it to separate it, so that this way you can't get access from any side. You can consider applying an alarm for when the gate is open, so that if somebody does open the gate, at least you're alerted to that, hopefully before they gain access to the pool, or in time to be able to respond before they're able to find themselves in a difficult situation. You can also consider they have surface wave or underwater alarms, so that if someone does gain access to the pool, it'll alert you if there is a motion within the water. Another important thing to remember is to have alarms at exit doors, windows, and pet doors. We know that children and pets have been able to get out of a house via any of these means. And so if one of those alarms is activated, that also can alert you that that the individual or the pet now has access to the outside, and in particular has access to potentially to a pool or to a body of water. We want to make sure that batteries and alarms are always in good repair and that gates are kept locked at all times. Can't tell you the number of times that I've heard stories about, the person was here cleaning the pool and what have you, and they inadvertently left the gate open. And I mean, that's asking for problems. It's important not just to install gates properly, but to make sure that they are properly functioning and that they're kept locked at all times. And the other things I always tell parents, make sure to keep kids keep toys, out of the pool area, and to make sure that, you don't have anything enticing in the pool area where a child would even want to enter the pool area. If they see their favorite toy, their truck, what have you, they're going to try to find a way to climb over a fence or to gain access to it. So just don't keep anything even around the pool that could potentially tempt kids. And as we mentioned before, you want to make sure that any and all bodies of water are completely emptied and left inaccessible to kids. Even something as simple as a kiddie pool or, a shallow bath of water, a bird feed or anything like that is completely emptied. So the child doesn't have access to even a shallow amount of water. Next slide. So the other thing is you want to always make sure that we never leave children unattended in or around the pool. I can't tell you how many times I've counseled parents and talked to parents like, oh, but I just had to go in to answer the phone, or somebody was at the door, so I just went to go, run to the door. And, you take your kids off, you take your eyes off your kids for just a couple of seconds and badness can happen. As I mentioned, right, drowning can happen in as little as 10 seconds. That is not a lot of time. You don't want to go to the bathroom. You don't want to do anything that involves taking your eyes off the kids. The other thing is always make sure that you have constant responsible supervision when the child or when individuals in or near any body of water. This is particularly important when you're in a large group, right? There's diffusion of responsibility. You assume somebody else is watching the kids, and in the end, nobody's watching them. And there have been drownings that have occurred, during pool parties when there are a lot of people around. So, I always tell people it's important to designate what we call a water watcher, or somebody who takes this basically this obligation to stay free of distractions, doesn't engage in side chatter, doesn't, they're not on their cell phone, they're not doing any other sort of activity or anything like that. Ideally, this person can have a badge or some way of identifying them as the water watcher so people know not to engage in the conversation, but that their sole obligation is really just to watch the people in the pool, to make sure that everybody is safe. And if anyone is in distress, to recognize that early and to call for help appropriately. Next slide. So there are some different techniques that we can take to teaching autistic children how to swim. Sometimes I know people feel that, oh, my child is autistic. I'm going to make, this excuse, that excuse. They don't like the noise. They don't like the water. They don't like the stimulation, what have you, to not teach them to swim. But, when we look at those statistics where autistic children are much higher risk of drowning, it's really, really important that this is more of a reason to pursue swimming and swimming lessons for children, to embrace it, to promote swimming for this particular population. There are different types of approaches that we can use. If your child is sensitive to noise and what have you, make sure that you take them to an area that allows for some quiet space. Turn off background music. Make sure that that whistles aren't being blown left and right, what have you. Make it a friendly environment for them so that they learn to love the water and to want to be in the water and to want to learn how to swim. Next slide. The American Academy of Pediatrics, or the AAP, does recommend swimming for all children, formal swimming lessons for all children over the age of 1, preferably between the ages of 1 to 4 years of age, as we know that, as I mentioned before, this is the time of highest incidence of drownings and fatalities due to drowning. So they've shown that learning how to swim and at least get yourself to the wall and be able to hold on to the wall does have a survival advantage. Some debate whether or not under the age of 1 there's any utility in this. I think, personally, as a mom and as a pediatric surgeon, and I think that there is, utility, at least making sure that the children have some basic survival skills and are accustomed to the water, that they're not freaked out by the water, they could try to get themselves to the wall or to safety, even below the age of 1. But certainly by 1 year of age, all children should be enrolled in formal swim lessons. Next slide. Next. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Didn't realize you. Of course, the decision to enroll a child swimming does obviously depend on a couple of different factors. So the child's developmental readiness and exposure to the water. And, I always remember that nobody is drown proof. Anybody and everybody can drown. Even good swimmers can drown, especially out in open water and things of that sort. So what you're doing is you're trying to prepare your child so we reduce the risk of drowning, but don't ever think of it as that they're completely drown proof. So even if your child is a good swimmer, you still never want to leave them unattended in a pool. Children should be taught also never to swim alone. They should always have somebody around. They should always have a swim buddy, whether that individual is in the pool or out of the pool, but never to be alone. You never know when something is going to happen or change and help is going to be needed. The other thing is, people often ask me, oh, well, if I give them floaties, isn't that good enough? And I think that, it's important to note that floaties actually are not a substitute for life jackets. They're not a substitute for formal swim lessons. And they actually can give a false sense of swim security. So I personally don't advocate for the use of floaties. Next. We already talked a little bit about the different reasons why autistic children should learn to swim, but I think that number 3, I just really wanted to highlight here that swimming does provide some sensory stimulation for those children who are seeking sensory, and may also be helpful to those people who want to avoid sensory, right? You go under the water, you can't hear anything, you're kind of in your own little, your own world there. And so that actually might be soothing for some children. So important to consider these factors also when enrolling your child in swimming and when communicating with swim teachers and swim schools. Next slide. These are just some tips for drowning prevention in autism. Again, just, really setting the stage, making sure that the child feels comfortable, making sure that, you do an appropriate introduction, make sure that the child is familiar with the environment, that they, you talk with them about what to expect. Sometimes visual pictures and things like that can be helpful, kind of depending on, what works well for that particular child. But I think the most important aspect is actually communicating with the pool, communicating with the swim instructors, making sure that everybody is coming together as a cohesive team to do what's best for that particular child and meeting that child's needs in order to be able to make sure that we make sure that the child is comfortable and that they can participate in swim instruction and hopefully learn how to swim and become, a little bit safer in the water. Important also to keep rescue equipment always within arm's reach of the pool, whether this is a life preserver within reach or some sort of flotation device where if somebody is in trouble in the pool, you can help to get them out of the pool, help to rescue them. The other thing is most of us have cell phones. I know a lot of people are afraid to kind of put their cell phones poolside because you don't want it falling into the water for obvious reasons, but it is important to make sure that you either have a cell phone or a portable phone within arm's reach, especially if you're the water watcher, you need to call for help. Important to have the ability to do that and not have to leave the poolside. Next slide. And the other thing is also make sure that all pool and spa covers are compliant with different safety standards. And this is because you want to avoid entrapment. So they're having cases where you have a non-functioning cover or it's not within codes and standards. And that hair or clothing has become entrapped, and we've seen drownings from that as well. So always important to check that as well whenever you're going into a pool or a spa. Important for all caregivers, parents, grandparents, older siblings, what have you, to know how to perform CPR. These days, you can take CPR classes online through the Red Cross or through many community centers. There are ways to learn how to perform CPR if, God forbid, the time comes that this is needed. Next slide. And then I always tell people also, especially if you're going to be out in open water, if you're going to be out on the beach or what have you, assign buddies, have a buddy badge or a buddy band or some way for someone to be able to identify somebody else's buddy. So this way there's accountability. So, that everybody should have a partner. Those partners should stay together. Those partners should always look out for each other. And that also helps to strengthen the accountability, but also that that nobody swims alone, the teaching that nobody swims alone. Next slide. Make sure to engage kids in swim safety, teach them about the water, teach them about swim safety, teach them about what to expect when they go to the pool, go to the beach, who they can ask for help, what the lifeguards look like, what their jobs and roles and responsibilities are. So this way they're at least hopefully more familiar with the environment and can be a little bit more comfortable. Next slide. And then just to kind of summarize some of the safety tips that I've already talked about. So formal swim lessons for anyone between the ages of 1 to 4. This may substantially decrease drowning risk, although it does not, don't ever think of anybody as being drown proof. Appropriate supervision without any distractions at all times, anytime anybody's in the water. Caregivers should all know how to perform CPR. Again, you want to make sure to provide appropriate barriers to the pool. So that this way we limit unsupervised access to bodies of water. And this can be with both pool fences as well as with appropriate gates and locks. And then to wear a life jacket if you're out in the open water. Don't depend on floaties, especially if you're out in open water, but really, I say at any time. Next slide. And teaching children how to be safe around and in the water, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. we all have to be committed to water safety, drowning prevention. We have to advocate for our kids. We have to, teach people in the community and know that your child's life or the life of another child may depend on this. And these are my three little reasons why I feel so strongly about making sure that kids know how to swim. And here are my girls taking swim lessons and, using this little device just to kind of help them get the kicking motions and be able to swim. And I'm happy to say that all three of them now know how to swim independently and get themselves, to safety and to the water edge. Next slide. These are just some of the resources that I used, which I found helpful, and I hope that other people will find helpful as well. So feel free to jot some of those down. And I think my last slide is just my office phone number on the top. I'm one of the pediatric surgeons, as I mentioned, here at Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, where we cover general surgery as well as trauma surgery. I'm happy to answer any questions. Please feel free to reach out to me. My email is tlevine, just my name, at mhs.net, and you see my office phone number up there. And with that, we can go to the last slide. I thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I think, is there a little video?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't submit the video, but I know that from Joe DiMaggio, it's in there.
Build trust by saying, I'm going to do the best I can to take care of your child.
When you're taking care of that child, you're taking care of the whole family, and that's what we do here at Joe DiMaggio. To me, they're like angels. They saved my daughter's life.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Levine. Some really important information on water safety. We appreciate it. Our next speaker that I'd like to introduce is Molly McGinnis with Butterfly Effects.
Thank you so much. As she said, I'm Molly McGinnis from Butterfly Effects. And for those of you who are not familiar with Butterfly Effects, we are ABA providers. We're across 12 different states, but we are located here in our corporate office in South Florida. So what I'm talking about today is elopement from assessment through intervention. So next slide, please. So what I'm going to do very quickly is go over overview and statistics. So what is elopement? Quickly discuss assessment and the importance of assessment, and then moving into treatment and next steps. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with this term, probably most people are, but I thought it was important to just start with to make sure everybody was aware of what elopement is. And elopement is anytime a child is leaving the designated area without permission. Generally, this means that the child is out of sight. And this could, the spectrum on this is anywhere from very minor. So the child went from one side of the room to the other side of the room to extremely dangerous, as Dr. Levine and Dr. Scott already touched on with concerns regarding drowning and otherwise. Next slide. So a beautiful study was done in 2017, and what was reported by caregivers is that 53% of caregivers report that their child was missing long enough to cause concern. There we go, thank you. I didn't know that I put those on like automatic stuff there, so my apologies. So, and causing concerns with drowning at 24%, like Dr. Levine, really just talked about, but also with traffic injury at 65%. So what this is looking at is they were either at risk or there was cause for concern, or there was an actual incident of traffic injury or drowning. But there's other possible consequences with elopement. And that could be pica, so consuming inedible objects because you are out of reach and view of your caregiver. Aggression can tap in towards others. There can be self-injury. And I know somebody put it in the Q&A a little bit ago as well, which is just also this can lead to interactions with police or other people in authority that our children on the autism spectrum may not be familiar with. Next slide. So first we need to identify the function, and then we can develop the intervention. If we don't identify the function, we can end up putting in interventions that are going to be inappropriate and or make the problem worse. Next slide. So with elopement, a lot of people jump to a conclusion like my child is running away or moving away from the caregiver because they're escaping something, okay? And there's this immediate thought they're trying to get away from either their homework or a task demand or a child that's being noisy on that side of the classroom. And that actually accounts for about 25% of elopement. Most of the time, elopement is maintained by what we call in ABA social positive reinforcement. But what we're really talking about is they want either attention or they want something. So Dr. Levine even talked about how, you know, children on the spectrum oftentimes like the shiny, sparkly water, and they're going towards that water. They're seeking that out. It could be water. It could be the iPad. It could be, you know, their friend across the room. But that is going to be generally the reason for elopement versus escape from demand. So again, it's important to differentiate for your own child. Why is my child eloping before you place in an intervention? Next slide. You can hit it one more time because I think I put another, like, there we go. So what is very important when you're looking at your child's elopement is looking at the ABC data, is what we like to call it. So the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence. In this situation, what's going to be most important for you is what happened after. So when we're talking about, is my child engaging this for attention, they're seeking out a thing, or escape, you're going to be able to tell that by the consequence or what happened after the behavior, after the elopement occurred. Next slide, please. So oftentimes this is incredibly idiosyncratic. And what I mean by that is our kids on the autism spectrum like things that you might not consider on the surface. These are some things that I've developed interventions with regarding elopement, and this is what the kid really wanted access to. Automatic sliding doors. It's a big one. Kiddo running out of the classroom because the doors in the front by the receptionist are sliding doors, and they like to watch those doors slide open and closed. Could be the sound of an alarm, ceiling fans, playground mulch, a moving escalator, a mirror reflective surface. Again, could be water. Window to the parking lot and the shiny cars is reflecting off of the sun. These are some very specific, not easy sometimes to identify items of why a child may be eloping without permission. Next slide. So when we're developing our intervention, and in this study that I have mentioned now from that was in 2017, one of the first things you want to look at with our kids is functional communication training. So communication for all of our kids could look very different. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but we want to try to replace them running to the automatic sliding doors by asking if they can go to a walk to the automatic sliding doors versus just bolting to them. So we're replacing that challenging behavior with an appropriate behavior. So teaching that functional replacement. And next slide. Oh, I did the automatic thing again. I'm so sorry. You might want to just like click through a couple of times. My apologies again. So if you are going to be teaching communication to access attention or a tangible, it can look very different for our kids. So as we know, not all of our kids are vocal verbal. They may be using just a shoulder tap, meaning, hey, when I'm tapping you on the shoulder, I need to take a break towards the thing that I really want. I might be using a picture exchange communication system. That could be like a book. It could be a card. It could be a really complex iPad app. I'm sure many of you on the call have kids that are using AAC devices. It could be vocal verbal. It could also be sign language. So if we're able to teach our kids to request what they want, they're not going to just bolt and run for it. They have a means of accessing it with communication too. Next slide. You might have to do it again. I'm so sorry. I'll make sure I fix this next year. So also you could use functional communication training, to access escape as well. So that 25% that we talked about, they are trying to get out of something, right? We all try to get out of things from time to time. I need a break from this homework. The noises that are happening in the classroom are too much for me, and I need to take a break and go for a walk around the school. And to get that, again, you might be looking at a picture exchange communication system, a visual schedule, a card, an AAC device. a sign, or again, a vocal verbal request. Again, this is going to be a socially appropriate way that all people will understand versus child bolting from the room, which of course can result in some of those very dangerous consequences we already discussed. Next slide. So there are other interventions, and they can be paired with this functional communication, but functional communication always should be a huge, huge part of what we are doing. And some of these, again, these are heavy terms that we use in ABA, but differential reinforcement of other behaviors. So giving the child a reinforcement when they are not engaging in elopement. A lot of times people will build that out in a visual schedule. So you complete the task, you have access to the reinforcer. Non-contingent reinforcer, so I'm giving you reinforcement over time. Blocking, which is I'm preventing you from elopement. Don't just use blocking by itself though, because then we're not teaching anything. We're just keeping the behavior from happening. And then extinction, or not giving them access to that reinforcer. Next slide. So in summary, we have to assess first, or we're going to intervene in the wrong way. Intervening in the wrong way can lead to an increase in that problem behavior. Creating the intervention, and then again, teaching. I'm just going to say again, if we're only blocking this behavior from occurring and we're not teaching at the same time, you have a big problem, because eventually you're not going to be able to block it. Like Dr. Levine and Dr. Scott talked about, things happen very quickly. We all have to, the caregiver has to go to the bathroom, or there's other siblings involved, and locks can be taken off, they can malfunction. Like I think Dr. Levine said, the pool man can come and the gate is accidentally left open, and now the child can elope. Therefore, if we don't have that teaching component in, they're going to bolt without trying to make that request to you. Next slide. That's the last slide. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody had. I try to keep it pretty quick here in summary, but thank you guys all for listening today, and I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Molly. Some great information there. There are some Q&A questions in the chat box. We'll address them at the end, but as far as looking, Molly, can you see that so you can maybe address some of those at the end? Okay, excellent.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, next I would like to introduce Zippy Rosen and Aaliyah Longhurst with Rails Jewish Family Services. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us for this necessary, fair, and just bringing us all together. So I'm just going to go through a quick PowerPoint. I don't really offer programs per se around safety, but I'm going to go touch upon a couple of things that can kind of still help the families. So you could go next slide, please. Okay, so I'm the special needs outreach worker at Ruth and Norman Rails Jewish Family Services, and we recognize the emotional and financial challenges that families face. And we offer a number of supports, including financial assistance, individual counseling, support groups, and information and referral. You can go to the next. Thank you. So through financial assistance, you have to live in Boca del Rey, Highland Beach, because we're catchment based, but for those families that qualify, we can help. There's some documents that need to be submitted, but we can assist with the families want their kids to get swimming lessons, and it's a financial challenge. It's something that we can definitely help with, or ABA services, things around to keep the children safe. And if there's that concern, that's definitely something that we are able to assist with the families through our financial assistance work that we do. Okay, next slide. Individual counseling. We have a whole clinical department, but sometimes a parent or a family member just needs a few brief sessions just to kind of help them get over a hump. That's something that I can meet with them at no charge. And then if they need further counseling, then we can always make a referral to our counseling department. And we also offer full psychological testing. We do the ADOS testing as well. And we have a full psychiatry department also. Okay, so support groups. We've been offering parent caregiver support groups for many, many years. And through those groups, we offer them once a week on Tuesday mornings and every other Wednesday evenings for those working parents. And these groups really give a platform for parents to really talk about things, including safety is a big thing that we talk about, if something is going on, if one parent is concerned, it's really a great and safe space for the group to really talk about different options that may have worked for them, or different things that so safety is really a big topic of conversation that comes up in our support groups. We also offer support groups for grandparents. Many grandparents are very involved with their grandchildren with special needs, and it gives them also a platform of how they can really help their children out and work with their grandchildren. And again, safety is something that's always brought up. I'm going to be starting SIP shops the end of October, which is very exciting. And always, of course, through that group, we'll also, with the siblings, talk about, the different safety things that are needed to know. And it's just a great place for, everyone to make friends and, connect and stuff. They're wonderful groups. If you want more information, please feel free to reach out. Okay. And information and referral. I get numerous calls throughout the day for different resources, and many of those resources are around safety. They could be for therapies, they could be for equipment, social activities, respite care, recreational activities, like if they want to take a swimming class, where's the best place to go. So we have I just have a list of different resources, and I also have an online resource guide. It's called the Jewish Abilities Alliance of South Palm Beach County, and it's just an access point to really go and search by age group and by topic, and it really gives a list of different resources that are available. Respite care, together with FAU Card and Unicord Children's Foundation and many, many other organizations, we have this respite care committee where we're really trying to work on, respite care trainings and, really trying to tackle the issue of respite care, or the lack thereof in the county, especially. But I'm actually doing a training with Susanna of FAU Card at the end of October. And we're going to do it in person at our new center in West Boca. So we have opened up a therapy center, which Alia will talk a little bit more about, and we're going to see a little video on. But, we're here for, anything that the family needs. So. And that's it. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you again for having us. Is there sound? Does anyone else not hear it?
Realize their maximum.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Our Family Resource Center is unique, not only because we provide all of our therapies here under one roof, but also because we believe that everyone should have access to all that we offer. We're able to provide financial assistance to all those who qualify to ensure that all families get their children the care they need, not just to live, but to thrive. We are a one-stop shop that equips parents and caregivers with the necessary resources that they need to build stronger families. In addition to our family consultations, referrals to community resources, support groups, and education workshops, we offer a broad range of therapies that meet all of your needs in one place. We encourage you to call us at 561-852-5099 to learn more.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Zippy and Alia. I'm very excited to have the new resource center. I think that's going to be a huge support for our families and our community. So thank you again for your support. Our next speaker is Deborah Dietz from the Disability Independence Group.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Debbie Dietz, as you heard, and I'm the Executive Director of Disability Independence Group, or DIG for short. And our mission is to expand opportunities for participation, education, employment, and acceptance of persons with disabilities through advocacy, litigation, education, and training. And I've put my website on the slide, and my contact information is on the slide. You can switch. Perfect. So today I'm going to talk to you about one of our projects, and this is one of our favorite projects. It's called the Wallet Card Project. And this project helps people with disabilities to safely disclose their disability to law enforcement. We make a custom wallet card that we call a communication tool that tells the officer information about the person with a disability. This will include their name, their disability, if they have a second disability, and some basic characteristics about their disability, such as they might not make eye contact, they might need extra time to answer a question, or that they may be nervous and have trouble communicating at all. We also add an emergency contact name and phone number on the back of the card so that the police can call and get information. And then we add 2 custom statements on the back of the card so that the parent can put specific traits that are unique to their child on the card so that the police will understand those behaviors. And it could be like someone flaps their hands to calm down. Well, normally a police officer would see that and think that someone was going to be aggressive towards them or want to hit them. So we put things like that on the card so that the officers can understand, no, these behaviors are typical for this individual. Now we have 2 requirements for the project. First, the person must be 14 years or older, and we do make exceptions. And second, the person must be verbal enough to say, can I show you my wallet card? And we do this for the protection of the person with the card. We don't want someone that cannot communicate reaching in their pocket for a card because an officer might not know what they're reaching for. And then we've taken a really good idea and created a really negative or bad situation or misunderstanding. But we know that there's a need for cards for other parts of the population. So we have created a caregiver card, and it's new this year. And this is for the caregiver of a person with a disability that either can't communicate for themselves because they don't speak or they're nonverbal, or if they're young, like a young child. And so now the caregiver can go on our website and request a caregiver card. A lot of the information's the same. We still allow you to customize with the traits, but we put the caregiver's name on it and then the individual with a disability that they take care of. And so you can, once you go on our website, you can see either card and pick the right application that's appropriate for your situation. And then we also have a training for police departments, and it's free, and it basically will explain to the police department, this is what the wallet card is, this is what you should do if someone hands you the card, and this is the purpose of the project. And in your area, the Port St. Lucie Police Department has it, and we've been talking with the Vero Beach Police Department, who is on this because we met last time, so we were talking together, and they're working towards getting it. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me after. So thank you so much for letting me speak today.
All right, thank you, Debbie. It's such an important support program that you have there. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Haley Moss, Ambassador for Project Lifesaver International.
Thank you so much again for having all of us to speak about resources and the autism community as it relates to safety. So I feel very privileged to get to speak here. I am an ambassador for Project Lifesaver, meaning that I get to help spread the word about what goes on. I am also out of our ambassador group, I'm the only self-advocate. So I am an autistic person. I have lived experience. I was also a child who was very attracted to water features. So learning about everything from our past speakers about swimming and water safety was something that really resonated with me. That's something that I went through as a child as well. And if you're curious to know a little bit more about Project Lifesaver is that Project Lifesaver is its program. I know that there's kind of this misconception that it's just a device, but rather Project Lifesaver is a program that is specifically designed to protect and recover and search for people with cognitive disabilities. So not just autism, but a lot of our programs also apply to folks with intellectual disabilities, Alzheimer's, dementia, et cetera, so that they might be prone to life-threatening behavior associated with wandering. A lot of folks drown and things like that. So we want to make sure that we are protecting as many people as possible. And I know that we have lots of partners here in the Palm Beach County and Treasure Coast area, including FAU, some of our nonprofit partners, and also law enforcement agencies. And I believe there's one more slide as well here to give a little bit more information. And what we usually like to do with this is it is a device that uses radio frequency signaling to help track people who do disappear and wander. So the goal of Project Lifesaver is to bring people home, especially that are at risk, or if they do seem to wander or that things like this. So when we do have folks that disappear and they are with Project Lifesaver agencies and we're involved, that we're a lot more likely to find them. We're likely to find them, bring them home alive, which I know is something that we were talking about as well, being a big thing. And it's something that you could definitely register with, and that we know how to be sure in our programming that we are doing training, that we have all of this stuff involved as well. So I think if you're interested in learning more, definitely feel free to reach out to all of us that are at Project Lifesaver, or even just your local agency. So on our website, you can also check find an agency to see who is a Project Lifesaver partner. And that way you can hopefully get registered and learn more about what we're up to as well. Thank you again for your time, your patience, and learning. And it's also fantastic to get to learn about what all the other organizations here are doing as well.
Great, thank you, Haley. And as Haley mentioned, FAU Card is a partner with Project Lifesaver. So if your child is in need of a device, you can connect with us as well. Our next speaker is Bambi Fonto with the Drowning Prevention Coalition of Palm Beach County. Bambi, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much for the invitation to participate in this event. I am Bambi Fonto. I am the coordinator for the Drowning Prevention Coalition of Palm Beach County. Just some basic statistics about Palm Beach County drowning deaths. We average about 48 drowning deaths a year, and they of course occur year-round. The number one location that drownings occur in Palm Beach County is pools, followed by the ocean. And then the third is motor vehicle crashes in open bodies of water, such as canals. And we all know we have tons of canals in Palm Beach County. We have tons of water. Seniors actually, based on population, have the highest drowning rate in Palm Beach County, followed by children from the ages of 1 to 4. So what does the coalition do? Well, we educate. I provide, my supervisor and myself provide free, virtual, as well as in-person land-based educational programming. We have 2 presentations. One is called the ABCDs of Water Safety. That's a very, very comprehensive presentation. Talks about all the aspects of, always swim with a buddy, having a water watcher, layers of protection, beaches, boating, bathtub safety, the whole gamut is covered. And then we have the other presentation that we offer is how to escape from a sinking vehicle, how to get out of a sinking vehicle alive. So we go to schools. We can go to anywhere from pre-K on up to 12th grade, as well as nonprofits, organizations, businesses, senior centers, HOAs. We go all over the place because we want to disseminate this information, because of course our mission is to prevent drowning and other water-related incidents in Palm Beach County. So we do that through our free programming. Another really, really important thing that we do, and that's a wonderful resource, is that we have a free and reduced cost swim lesson voucher program. And this is for children that qualify between the ages of 2 to 12. And for their immediate caregiver. A lot of people don't realize that we also offer adult swim lessons as well for the caregiver if the caregiver does not know how to swim. Also, for adults over 50, we have free adult lessons. We are funded by the Board of County Commissioners and the Children's Services Council of Palm Beach County. And of course, why should we care about water safety and drowning prevention in the autism community? You could go to the next slide. Because there is one before. I could just talk if it's not there. I could just because as Dr. Levine talked about before, water is fascinating to those on the autism spectrum. It glistens, it sparkles, it's engaging. Sometimes pleasant experiences in water may reinforce repetitive contact, which would lure the individual into the water. And an individual on the autism spectrum may not hesitate to engage in dangerous aquatic interactions. So it's really important. I know Dr. Levine went over all of this, but just briefly, some safety precautions, learn to swim. We are a great resource for swim lessons. So definitely reach out. Also make sure the instructor has experience teaching those on the autism spectrum. Of course, ensure fencing around open bodies of water and swimming pools, alarms, all those barriers of protection that Dr. Levine talked about.
So Bambi, we're gonna skip on. I don't know if you can hear us, but we're gonna move on. I'm gonna show contact information for Anna Stewart as well. And then if you have any questions, you can reach out to her at astewart@pbcgov.org. They also have a wonderful list on there of places that or resources that offer swim lessons as well. All right, our next speaker is Libby Moon. Oh, with the YMCA of Boca Raton.
Hey everyone, I am so thankful to be on here. So with the YMCA of South Palm Beach County, we do offer adaptive aquatics swim lessons. So I'm sorry, next slide. And so each year we do our utmost best to get funding to help subsidize costs for swim lessons, as well as we do partner with the Drowning Prevention Coalition, and we do accept their vouchers. So with that, all of our swim instructors are certified with CPR, AED, oxygen, as well as many other aspects. The lessons are one-on-one. Right now, we are working on small groups, but 1-to-1 ratio for 30 minutes, focusing on safety first, swim second. So essentially, if the child were to go into the water, would they be able to float onto their back? Would they be able to return back to the wall? And so there's that. So we accept most individuals with diverse abilities, which include but are not limited to cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism, ADD, ADHD, Down syndrome, and 22q11. So there's that. And next slide. And then also with in our association at our Boca branch, we have Chase's Place, which is a care facility that provides childcare ages 5 to 22. So there's after school, school breaks for summer, spring, and winter. There's fun days for the days that there's no school, parent night out, which is we actually have a parents' night out this Saturday. And so it's a good time to have the students interact and have a good time. All right, next slide. And so for as far as the Chase's Place, you will contact Allison Reeves. She is the ECP coordinator for our Chase's Place. And then if you have any questions in regarding to swim lessons, I am more than happy to answer your questions at any time. And I always have to plug this in, but we are hiring swim instructors, lifeguards, and counselors for our students, because I will be honest, we do have a waiting list for both of these items, but as we are able to hire, we are able to take more participants. So always want to try to get that out there.
Next, I'd like to introduce Kathy Wall, the Program Director of Safe Kids of Palm Beach County.
I can't follow Libby. Gosh. Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for inviting us to share with you guys today, too. And all the presentations so far have been great, and I'm learning a lot. So I really appreciate you, Jackie, for including us. You can go. Go. So we are Safe Kids Palm Beach County, and I'm Kathy Wall, and we're a program of community partners of South Florida, and we are also funded by the Children's Services Council. Our mission at Community Partners is to partner with communities to change the odds for all children and families facing social, emotional, and financial adversity. And our mission with Safe Kids is to keep all kids safe from preventable injuries. And I really appreciate what Jack said at the very beginning. You know, most of these injuries are preventable. It's just educating ourselves and getting, you know, the resources in place to, you know, keep our kids safe. So next. So, and Jack had also alluded to this, but preventable injuries are the #1 killer of kids in the United States and throughout our world. Over 1 million children a year die from preventable injuries. So that's technically considered a global epidemic. And add on to that the millions of children that are injured due to, you know, preventable injuries. So that is our mission, to keep all kids safe. So this is just an overview. Actually, I'm going to go through most of these. So, but we focus on safety on the road, safety at home, and safety with sports and play. And I'm actually kind of cheating. Safe Kids Palm Beach County is part of a larger network of Safe Kids organizations throughout the world. And in the United States, we have, I think, about 400 coalitions. So we are one of those coalitions. This is just a little kind of a guide that shows you all of the areas of injury prevention that we do like to talk about with parents and caregivers. Okay. So we talk about safety at home. And I'll just give a little precursor. I'm just going to kind of give a little snippet for each of these, but please reach out to us. We would love to do a presentation if you've got a church group or a parent group or a school group, anywhere where we can get, you know, more in-depth education out. We would really appreciate that connection. And then also, if there's anything in here that you would like to learn more about, reach out to me. I work closely with Jackie, and we connected on a couple of families, you know, to try to troubleshoot and come up with some ideas. So please feel free to reach out. So we'll just kind of clip through these. So we do a lot with safe sleep. We talk about the importance of single sleep space, having nothing in the crib, no blankets, no pillows, no cute stuffed toys. Those bumper pads are actually getting discontinued. Those will not be on the market anymore for cribs. They actually are a tribute to a lot of the suffocation issues. I'm not going to go into water safety. We partner very closely with the Drowning Prevention Coalition, but we do talk about with our infant sleep We do several childbirth classes throughout the county. We talk about safe sleep, but then we also talk about bath time, about the importance of being present during bath time, getting everything you need before you take your child into the bathroom for that bath. Do you have the diaper? Do you have the towel? Do you have the, hopefully you don't have your phone with you, but like someone else mentioned, it just takes that 1 second where I just have to run, grab my phone, run, answer the door. So we talk about bath time as sacred time. We do a lot with poison prevention and medicine safety. The big takeaway here is keep all medicines and cleaning products out of sight and out of reach. Really important. If a child sees something and they know they're not supposed to get into it, they're going to get into it. That's what they're for. They're built for that curiosity. They want to climb, they want to crawl. If they're going to figure out a way to get the cookie on the top shelf of the food cabinet, they're going to figure out a way to get a hold of, something else that could be more dangerous. And particularly now with medicine and poison safety, we're talking a lot with families, which are really prevalent in a lot of homes, are these vitamin gummies. They come in every flavor, C, D, B, E. Then we also have the CBD gummies. We also now have a lot of medical marijuana in homes. So a lot of those gummies look just like a Starburst or look just like a gummy bear. So they're really confusing. So we really want to keep families to have a medicine safety lock or box or bag, something that locks up, but that you can keep out of sight and out of reach. Okay. We talk a lot about fire safety, and I think we've done this before with you guys at CARD, but one of the things that we do with families and kids is we talk about home fire drills. When they go to school, there's a fire drill. The alarm goes off and they know what it sounds like. They know where they're supposed to line up. They know where they're going to go, who they're going to follow, and they know the whole floor plan. So we really recommend doing this at home. Draw out your house, talk about where the meeting place is going to be, let them hear what the smoke alarm is going to sound like, so it's not the first time they're hearing it and it really scares them, and just kind of do these regularly scheduled kind of fire drills at your house of where they're going to go, what's their escape plan, what are your exits out of the house, and how do they get out safely. And then of course we talk a lot about the button batteries are in so many toys. They're in every remote control. They're in your key fobs. So those button batteries, for those little curious kids that love to take things apart, they're going to take it apart. They're going to get a hold of that battery. It looks like a Smartie, or it looks like, something delicious, shiny. I'm going to put it in my mouth, and it can be very deadly. Those lithium batteries actually they get in your throat. They burn through your throat in a matter of minutes. So those button batteries are super dangerous. And I saw you guys, I love your safety kits. There's so many things you can get that are drawer locks, cabinet locks, oven latches, toilet latches. I mean, there's lots of things on the market that can help protect your home from young, curious kids. Okay. We talk a lot about safety at play, and you can go to the next one. And particularly, we talk a lot about the wheeled sports safety. So we're really big on bicycle helmets and any other wheeled sports safety, wearing helmets. We just did a skateboard clinic with a group in West Palm Beach, and it was really fun. But so many kids don't have helmets. We know that that is the leading cause of injury and of death when kids are riding without helmets. So we actually have a program where we can provide helmets, get them fitted to be sure it's on there. And then we just really talk to the parents that no helmet, no ride. You don't get to go and to keep, am I freezing? No, okay. It says my internet is unstable. But keep your helmet on the bike. Don't throw it in the toy chest, because you'll never find it later. So keep it with your bicycle, and make sure that they have their helmets available. The water safety, I defer to all our friends at the Y and the Drowning Prevention Coalition. We're so lucky in Palm Beach County to have this swim voucher program for kids and families to be able to get the survival skills and the water safety, swim lessons that they need. We talk a lot about toy safety. I talked about the button batteries, but also age appropriate toys. A lot of times I'm a parent and you want to get that cool toy, but you'll notice on all the toys, it's going to have, this is recommended for 1 to 3, 3 to 5. So if you have a 3-year-old and you're getting them a toy that's for a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, there's a reason why it's not recommended for them. Most likely they're going to have pieces or parts that could come off that could cause a choking hazard. So we really recommend looking at those toys to make sure that there aren't sewn on buttons and that, there's things that could come off. And also for families with, multiple children, it's keeping the toys separate because little kids always want to get into the older siblings' toys. So figuring out a system like, these little boxes or, cabinets that the kids can keep their toys separate so the younger ones can't get into the older ones. Okay. We are probably our biggest program with Safe Kids is our Safety on the Road. And you can go to the next one. We have a very robust car seat program in which we are able to provide car seats at a reduced cost. We ask for a donation to go with the seat. Right now we're asking for $40. It covers less than half of the cost of the seat, but we don't just provide car seats, we provide the education for car seats. So if a family comes to us for a car seat, whether they have a baby expected, due any day or next month, or you've got a child that's outgrown their infant seat and moving into a forward-facing seat, we actually do about a 30-minute education with each seat and then also do the install with the parent. We want to know when they drive away that if they have to move that seat into another car, grandma's car or the babysitter's car or, a spouse's car, that they can install it properly. So we have a great car seat program and, we would love to help you out if you need help. We do a lot with pedestrian safety with kids and with parents, particularly this back to school. If any of the kids are walkers to school, we recommend walking to school with them at least for 1 full week to get the lay of the land, because on Mondays, if you walk to school with them, it's a clear path and it's wonderful. But on Tuesday, all the recyclable bins and the trash cans are in the sidewalk. What are they doing? Are they walking in the street to walk around them? Is there a barking dog that scares your kids? Can you reroute them around from where that barking dog is? So we talk a lot about pedestrian safety. Pedestrians actually have to follow the rules of the road. So we like to teach kids what does a yield sign mean? What does a stop sign mean? What does a crosswalk mean? And we talk a lot about safety in and around cars, particularly with backovers. So for all you parents on here, we really recommend that before you get in your car, don't walk straight to the driver's door. Walk around the back of the car, the rear of the car, take a look up and down the sidewalk to see if there's any kids coming or any other walkers coming, just to see what's happening before you back out of your driveway. And that's it. I think the next slide is our contact information. Again, we would love to provide you with any resources or information that we have. We would love to speak to any of the groups that you have. We can go in depth for probably about an hour for any of these topics that I just shared with you. So let us know. And again, thank you so much for inviting us today.
All right, thank you so much, Kathy. And I know there's some great resources on your website, and we'll be sharing some of your sister Safe Kids groups that are in our catchment area as well in our directory. So
fantastic, thank you.
All right, next I would like to introduce Deputy Scott Poritz and Deputy John Ledford with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office.
Good afternoon, everybody. You're getting a 2-for-1 sale today. Myself, I'm Scott Poritz, investigator with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and
I'm John Ledford.
My portion, I'm going to talk about outreach that we do here at the Sheriff's Office in partnership with the Village of Wellington, FAU Card, and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Foundation. This event, this is going to be our 5th one that we're having. It started back in 2018. Planning went into it in 2017. And it's an event called the Day for Autism, Building Bridges with Law Enforcement Picnic. The mindset behind this is 90% of the time, law enforcement responds to a home with somebody that has autism. It is usually for negative reasons. And, you know, we need an opportunity where we can kind of let our guard down, let the families with autism, let their guards down, and come together and, you know, experience each other, learn. And what better way to do this than a picnic? So the first year we did this, we had a very little budget. We provided food, entertainment, interactive games. We had resource vendors, and we saw that this was a great event, and we wanted to grow it more. So that's when we reached out to the community and brought in sponsorship. This way we can make sure that it stays free to both the participants and our vendors. It's very important that we get the community involved, providing what resources are out there. You know, so with this event, right now we're concentrating on the fundraising. November 1st, we're going to open up to the resource vendors. And then in January, we'll launch the flyer that's going to have the invite on it. We had last year a little over 750 participants, over 40 resource vendors. So, you know, this was great. We had deputies that were dancing with everybody, eating with everybody, playing games with everybody. I bust out a move, and for whatever reason, everybody went in the opposite direction. I don't know if it's because I'm embarrassing or I'm that good of a dancer. So, you know, this is something that we plan on continue doing and just breaking down those walls. It's nice that, you know, we get a lot of support from the community in education, but what better way to be educated than to actually interact with, you know, those that are on the spectrum. So look out for the vendor registration, and then the flyer. Sorry, my throat's a little bit dry. I think that means it's time for me to move on to my counterpart. We're very excited to be able to offer this. I do need to give a shout out to Officer Zeitz in Jupiter. She has also created a Day for Autism in the Jupiter area on the same concepts, interaction with law enforcement and vendors. So we'd love to see this grow into other areas as well. It's very important that we, you know, we do that kind of outreach and education for our officers. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Investigator Ledford.
Hey, everyone. Jacqueline, thank you again for having me back this year. I do appreciate that. I'd like to first start off and say that I attended my first Project Lifesaver conference this year. I was amazed with all the information. I met Haley myself, and I was very excited about all the information that I learned. I'd like to take a moment and tell you about the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. I'm the project coordinator for Project Lifesaver with the Sheriff's Office, and I'm proud to say that we have 37 total person tracking devices throughout our agency. We have 20 dedicated solely to our districts. I have 6 more to my special investigators, detective investigators. I have 4 more to my search and rescue canine dogs, 7 roving mobile units at all. And you know the value of that golden minute. I don't even like to refer to the golden hour. I like to refer to it as the golden minute. One of our lost ones go wandering, or they elope, or whatever the case may be. We want to get the sources out there, resources out there as quickly as we can. One thing that I'm working on right now is the FTO program within the sheriff's office, the field training officers. I want to make sure that all 2,800 of our law enforcement officers within the sheriff's office are trained. That means that anywhere, anytime that there is someone that's called in, they're missing, lost, whatever the case may be, we do have a resource within minutes that can respond. Training and education, as you know, is a primary goal of mine as well. And we're going to expand on that to all municipalities that may not have this product, but we want to reach out and touch them and get them involved in this program as well. That way we can have Project Lifesaver available for everybody. With that being said, I don't know if I burned up my time, but Scott was over here punching me, so I'm sure that's my cue to get off. But again, Jacqueline, thank you. I truly appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much.
I wasn't punching him. It was a care tap.
Yeah.
A little prompt. No, we appreciate all that you do at PBSO and these wonderful, really important events for both law enforcement and for our families. So we're going to move on. I don't think next was Jeff Hines with Palm Beach Fire Rescue, but I don't think he.
No, I'm here. I'm just Bambi.
Oh, all right. You're here.
we're in the same office, so she logged in. So yeah,
Wonderful.
so I'm just under her name.
Excellent. Okay. Just really quick, I put in the chat, we are about 10 minutes late. So those of you that can hold on, please do. There's a couple more presenters that have some really great information. All right, Jeff, it's all yours.
All right, perfect. So yes, thank you for having me again. Participated last year. I will keep it short and sweet and to the point. But yeah, I'm Jeff Hines with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. So with autism and the fire department, you know, it's good to go over with everyone in the house, you know, hiding places, as far as having a fire drill, where to go, how to get outside to practice those. They practice them in the schools all the time, but we never really do it at home. So it's good to have a plan in place, draw a map, you know, have everybody participate in it to show the routes, where they should go, if they go out a door, if they go out a window, most importantly to where their meeting places once they get outside so that everyone's kind of accounted for. Obviously firefighters look different in their bunker gear. We go out and we talk to preschoolers, we talk to these people, those people, they look different. So when they look different, a lot of people, adults and kids, you know, will hide from the firefighters. So it's teaching, you know, people to don't be scared of the firefighters, don't hide. Obviously, if they're hiding, it's harder for us to find them, which means it takes more time. And obviously in a fire, we want to get you out as fast as possible. Also, do not go back inside the dwelling if it's on fire, regardless of who this person or people may be. It's not the fire that really hurts people in a fire, it's the smoke, right? I mean, technically you debate that the fire creates the smoke, but it's the smoke that really hurts individuals. So what can potentially happen is people go back inside because maybe they forgot their favorite toy, maybe they forgot whatever it happens to be. So we want to make sure that everyone knows, you know, don't re-enter when you go outside. That's why that meeting place is important too. When you get to that meeting place, stay at that meeting place. Smoke detectors, right? So how do we know if there's a fire? Smoke detector, whether you're 1 minute old or whether you're over 100 years old, your nose actually goes to sleep at night. So by the time you smell the smoke, it may be too late. You may not have a way out, or you may have breathed in too much smoke. So check your smoke detectors and make sure that everybody in the house knows what it sounds like. When they go off, they are loud. They're supposed to be loud so that it will wake you up if you are sleeping in the middle of the night. Some homes have interconnected smoke detectors, meaning that when one goes off, they all go off, which is great because if you for example, sleep on different ends of the house, if there's a fire on this end and this smoke detector goes off, this smoke detector is going to go off. So you have that much more time to get out. Whereas if they're not interconnected, that smoke has to come all the way over here. Then this smoke detector will go off. Obviously now your whole house is full of smoke. So make sure they work, test them. It's recommended to test them once a month. Just push the button every once in a while. If it goes off, it works. If it doesn't, replace the batteries or replace the smoke detectors. They all do have an expiration date on them, depending on how old or when you got them. 6-7 years now. They had 10-year battery or 10-year lithium battery smoke detectors, but now it's been 10 years since those have been out. So now they're calling them long lasting because the lithium batteries aren't lasting 10 years, but they will last longer than a 9-volt. So at the end of the day, test them, make sure everybody in the house knows what they sound like, because it can be a little terrifying, especially if there's a fire going on also. The basic fire safety, stop, drop, and roll, touching the door here again with that escape plan. If you come up with that, teach them to touch the door with the back of their hand. If the door is hot, go out the window. If you're on a second story, don't go out a window. open the window, push the screen out, throw some things outside, whether it's stuffed animals, toys, clothes, blankets, close the window because we don't want the fire to get any more air. When we show up as the fire department, we walk around the whole building, house, whatever it happens to be. If we see things on the ground, we know that somebody's up there. Depending on also if they're upstairs, you could put a flashlight in the individual's room so that when they throw those things out, they can stand by their window with a flashlight. Just makes it easier, more visible for us as the fire department to see them, to go, you know, climb up a ladder and grab them and get them down. Meeting place, meeting place, meeting place. Just shouldn't move. Should be a solid place. Fence, mailbox, neighbor's house, tree, whatever it happens to be. Don't make it a car, don't make it something that moves, and don't make it something across the street. We don't really want people crossing streets between, you know, emergency personnel coming with what's going on and other vehicles. We just don't want people crossing the street or being out in the road if they don't have to be. Locking up matches and lighters, obviously accessibility. We have a class that we put on every month as far as juvenile fire setters, and a lot of times matches and lighters were in a drawer. Kids got into the matches and lighters, they started playing with them, not trying to start a fire. Fire happens and then everything gets out of control. So part of it is just taking responsibility and being proactive and locking up things that could potentially lead to a bad situation. And safety covers over the stove knobs, depending on what's going on. You can get those, what type of stove or oven you also have. But if they have knobs, you can put a plastic cover on it. You find them at the baby stores, Walmart, Target. Basically, then you just can't turn that knob. Sometimes there might be something on the stove. Maybe somebody left a bag of bread on the stove or something flammable, and somebody turned on the warmer and it got hot enough and it caught on fire. So depending on where that person or those people are at, just putting in some safety devices to not make it as accessible always helps. All right. All right. So our sensory bags. So at the end of the day, back to all of that information, I work in the education section. We go out and we do programs, we do presentations for everybody and anybody. If it's something, I believe at the end, my contact information is there. Contact me. I can come out. One of us from our section can come out, go over the presentations, go over all the safety information, all ages, all levels, all everything. It works for everybody and anybody. Me personally, I've actually been to the ELS Autism Center up in Jupiter area. I believe it's Jupiter address. Usually annually I'm up there, so we do get the information out, but reach out. So this is a new campaign that the fire department's doing now. We have these plastic backpacks right here, and we put them on our rescue trucks for anybody and anybody at the end of the day. But we have headphones in there, so you know, can cancel noise. I'm trying to look at myself while I show you, because fire trucks can be loud, rescue trucks can be loud. There can be a lot of stuff going on, a lot of sensory things going on in the back of the truck. A couple comforting things. We got a stress ball that, you know, stress fire helmet that we can give to individuals, a fidget spinner that we can give to individuals, things to distract and or comfort them. And then we've also put these cards inside of there. And these cards have just different things, because if somebody's not able to communicate, it can, you know, it's everything from a gunshot to a fall to, now I'm looking through it, like restroom issues to coughing. So if we have an individual that's nonverbal for whatever reason, we can use these pictures to find out what their pain level is, what happened, to kind of help that communication barrier. So all the rescue trucks now have these backpacks inside there with a handful of things to hopefully give us more information, meaning what's going on with them, to potentially giving some things to comfort the person, whether it's reducing the sound, whether it's giving them, you know, a stress ball or a fidget spinner or something to distract them, to make them more comfortable, because it can be really stressful in the back of a rescue truck, especially if you're hurt. All right, so back to, that's my information. Feel free to reach out to me, email, phone number. There's 4 of us in our section. We're divided up throughout the county, but here again, we will come and talk about anything and everything. So if it's something you think you want us to come talk to, reach out, and most likely the answer will be yes. And if it's not, we'll figure out how to direct you in a way to get you the information you want. But thank you for your time. Thank you again for inviting me. Please reach out, and everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Wonderful to see that new program. Very helpful for kids with autism, but I think all kids in our community. So thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Next, I would like to introduce Lieutenant Matt Harrelson with the Vero Beach Police Department.
Hello, thank you very much for the time. The program that we have in Indian River County, it's called the CIRCLE program, which is an acronym for Combined Indian River County Law Enforcement. And what it is, it's a database program that we put together for those that have special needs, not just those with autism, but anyone within our community that has special needs. Because as we all know, much like some of the other speakers have said earlier in our program, that those with special needs have probably about a 3 to 4 times more likelihood to come in contact with law enforcement just based off of maybe some behaviors or maybe some outbursts and things that could happen in their lives. And what we've done is in Indian River County, we've put together, it's sort of, in a way, it's somewhat of a hybrid between kind of what Deborah has with the card information, as well as what Project Lifesaver does. However, what we've done is we've developed these bracelets that they can wear along with an ID card. Now, the ID card and the bracelet have a number on them. They say the term CIRCLE, obviously the acronym that I talked about before, and then it also has a number on it. That number indicates the participant that's in the program. Now, it's completely voluntary. It can be some family members or even the subject themselves can put them in the program. And what it is we gather information from them. We get an updated photograph, all the information from them, whether they have an actual diagnosis or any of their issues and things of that nature, or triggers, things like that, that law enforcement can have readily available to them should we come in contact with them. And what I find that helps is we've had a couple instances it's happened where law enforcement rolls up on scene. We have no idea what's going on. We just get the call for service that maybe, they may have autism, maybe they're nonverbal, they might be stimming or doing something on the corner, which obviously, from someone, a layman that doesn't understand what's going on, they always call us and we're usually the first ones that have to go. So when we get there, if they have the bracelet on, as I indicated earlier, the law enforcement officer can see that number, call into dispatch and say, give me the information on circle number 15, if you will, if that would have been the number. And then we can instantaneously have more information about that individual, their name, where they live, their first contact information, all that type of stuff, which then the officer can then interact with the individual, call them by their first name, tell them, hey, I got a hold of your mom. They're on their way here. I know you live right around the corner. Everything's going to be okay. All that kind of stuff, which, in our, I know the buzz term is always de-escalation that everyone uses. And obviously that's something that we want to do. So it doesn't get to a use of force type situation or it doesn't get to a scenario where, we have to go hands-on or anything like that. So it can be the end of the scenario can be much more tolerable for all individuals involved. And so again, it's a voluntary situation. Where I obviously go through and vet to make sure, it's a valid applicant, things of that nature. And as again, we have an updated photograph, which also helps for when we have our wanderers or things of that nature. So the officers, when they're en route, if the family member says, hey, my son, Billy, he just wandered off and he's circle number 54 in the registry. When my officers are en route, they can bring that up on their mobile data terminals while they're on their way there and have an updated picture of Billy, and hopefully maybe find him before we even get to the scene. It also helps too for if we don't find them on the way, at least we have updated information. It's much more readily available to burst out to the other law enforcement agencies that are searching for this individual. So also all of the information, again, it's protected by HIPAA, so someone can't do a public records request to the police department and get that information. So that's very important to family members as well. So they have that too. So again, it's completely voluntary. It's just in Indian River County at this point in time. I'd love to expand it, throughout the Treasure Coast, throughout Florida. It doesn't matter to me. Because all this information, again, it can only help have, as I said, a more acceptable ending to scenarios when dealing with law enforcement and our citizens of special needs.
Wonderful, thank you. A great resource again, and I too would love to see that replicated throughout other departments as well. Thank you, Lieutenant Matt Harrelson. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Caitlin Fairs from the Coalition for Independent Living Options, Crime Victim Advocate.
Hi, so I'm Caitlin. For those of you who don't know, the Coalition for Independent Living Options is also known as SILO. It's a disability nonprofit agency. So we serve all individuals of any age with any disability. We also have a victim service program. So while it's not just about safety, we do respond to situations where people with disabilities have been victimized. There's whether they're reporting or not. They can be a self-referral or a referral from another agency. We do disability-specific safety planning. We do information and referral. We provide information about victim compensation applications, whether someone is eligible or not. We help them gather that information if they are eligible and gather the supporting documentation that's necessary to file the claim. We'll help them file the claim or do it on their behalf. We also monitor the claim status and do a lot of advocacy and calls to victim compensation themselves in Tallahassee. We also have, oh, sorry, did I do that? We also have like individual advocacy and systems advocacy. So if someone wants, assistance applying for benefits, for accommodations where they work, or if they're in school and they're looking for accommodations, if they're trying to get a scholarship, we can do that with them. We also help people file for injunctions for protection. We go to court with them. We can go to the police station with them as long as that's, approved by the officers. We have a emergency Ring doorbell program for victims of domestic violence. We also do like psychosocial support groups, emotional support, responding to like crisis situations. We do not have a crisis like hotline or anything, but after victimization, we offer up to like 6 sessions of individual counseling. We also have contracted therapy for those people who do not have insurance. We provide technical assistance for providers and community presentations where we often identify people who have been victimized or who have who want to report a crime, and we help them do that. And then you can go to the next one. Okay, and this is just our contact information. We are in Palm Beach County and and on the Treasure Coast. So that includes Okeechobee County. You can send an email to referrals@silo.org. We also have a referral form that I can send to the email and can be sent out to everyone. That is all I have.
All right, thank you. Another very important resource in our area. Thank you, Caitlin. Okay, so that is all we have for you today. I know we've been monitoring the Q&A box, so trying to answer the questions that are coming through. Our contact information is on the screen. You can put in a website request at autism.fau.edu, or you can email us at card@fau.edu. And our phone number is on there as well. If you have any further questions or any questions about what you saw today or heard here. So please feel free to get in touch, and I will stick around for a little bit in case there are any last minute questions that do arise. But a huge thank you to all of our presenters and panelists. We truly appreciate all of your support and the wonderful programs that we have in our area.